Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Mixed Reality Speaker Series. Today we've got a cool little event. So this is creating worlds while worlds apart, using the HoloLens 2 to create and connect. So this is about an application that was built for the HoloLens 2 with Unreal, and it showcases the history of the Ford GT40. And so we've got Alex Lambert and Nacho Rodriguez here to tell us all about this. They'll do a quick presentation just between the two of them. And then after that, we'll have Summer Wu, our program manager here at Microsoft. She'll go over some questions that she has for them. And then we'll hand over some questions to you as well so that you have some times to figure out some of the things that you're itching to know. So we'll get into that. So after the presentation or during the presentation, just remember there's a little Q&A box up here in the corner. And just if you have a thought come to mind, just put it in there and we'll keep an eye on it. And once we have some time at the end, we'll get into your questions. So I'm going to hand this off to Alex here, and he'll take the presentation over from there. So Alex.
Hey, I'm Alex Lambert, based in London. I'm creative director at an immersive company called Happy Finish. I was also creative director for this project, and I worked with Nacho on this.
Hi, my name is Nacho Rodriguez. I was the main developer at Happy Finish, making the GT40 experience we're going to present. I was a developer since 2015. Since then, I moved to London and work in several companies making AR experience and VR experience. Thanks.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna should I jump on and start the presentation, Nick?
Yes, please.
Okay, give me a second. Okay, so we kind of named this presentation "Creating Worlds Apart" because we were really this was right at the beginning of lockdown. You know, we kind of had this project cleared before lockdown, but we thought it was really a real test of our abilities, both as a team and stretching the limits of what's possible within augmented reality. So essentially, we'll give you a bit of a creative rundown as well, of the creative process, how we made this project. And also, Nacho will be telling us a bit about the development, some of the problems we saw and somehow we overcame them as well. Okay, so really, we started off with the killer brief. Like we worked with Microsoft on a few HoloLens 2 experiences in the upcoming year and the year leading up to this brief, and it's the killer brief. It says basically they were saying, can we create a best-in-class piece of content and which really showcased the power of the HoloLens 2, and some of this was in using Unreal Engine 4 as well. So there were a few stipulations. It had to be device only, and previously we'd been working using RTX and remote rendering, but this was, you know, what can we do just with the device to really make the HoloLens 2 shine? And part of that was being able to let potential HoloLens customers envision their use of it in real commercial and customer-facing applications. Where to begin? Like, I think we all know that the HoloLens 2 really has a lot of credence when we talk about producing content, particularly for, say, medical engineering, diagnostics, really commercial purposes. But you know, throughout me working in immersive technologies or working in digital creativity, I've always kind of thought, okay, how can you push the technology into a way to make something really creative? So I really wanted to kind of say, okay, how can we create a project which showcases all of these technical aspects, yet at the same time is surprising, and it has a really good narrative behind it as well to kind of draw people in. Because we've seen lots of demos which while technically are impressive or visually may be impressive, they feel very kind of broken up and not very seamless. So I wanted to create a story to go along with that. Okay, and I always start my stories when I get this brief with this idea of the creative considerations, and this is just condensing the brief into key points that we consider throughout the process. So one was we want it to be breathtaking. Essentially, we want it to feel like magic, and we want to leave a smile on people's faces and highlight some features that even veteran HoloLens users might be unaware of. Imaginative. Yes, so I wanted the demo to go further than a product demonstration. We want to try and get a feeling in there, try and express a narrative, while keeping things really high quality and high fidelity. Intuitive. Again, like I guess everyone, the benefit of the HoloLens 2 is to be able to behave like a person and have reactions of the software in that space that you would expect. So we wanted that to feel really intuitive and really seamless. Now, if, for example, a client was to receive a HoloLens 2 and they're going through the experience unaided, we really need to feel like they know how to use it and not come up against barriers. So making it intuitive is really important. And known classics, new perspectives. Now, we wanted to use a product, and we didn't know which kind of product we were going to use, but we knew that we didn't want to have a kind of shady knockoff looking product featuring this. So we were looking at using items which were out of IP, and we felt that would juxtapose well with the kind of new technology that we're viewing it on. We looked at watches, we looked at really high value items such as watches, and gave breakdowns on how we could really focus on these and highlight specific elements to make them look quite cool. So for planes, we had the idea, okay, could you hold your hand out and fly the plane with your hand, being able to see inside the engine. Lenses, photography, we could break those apart. Trainers, could we have them on a rolling road and see kind of highlights based on the properties of the shoes. Eventually we settled on a car, because we really like this idea of being able to deconstruct this, show the kind of aerodynamics, and luckily we've done a lot of work with Ford at Happy Finish. We have a really tight relationship with them, so we were able to get the license to actually use the real GT40 without having to do a kind of low rent version, should I say. So then we went on to creating this journey. Now, I've kind of broken this into a few sections. There are kind of key moments and narrative tools. So for me, we, particularly when designing this experience and this idea of bringing that magic to people, I really wanted to say, break it into kind of 3 or 4 clear parts and assign a function to each of those parts, assign a key interaction to each of these parts. So we've got we basically did that. We say we've got intro animation, we've got that splash screen, and we've got 3 sections: beauty, performance, and engineering. Each really looking at use in a different kind of commercial sense. So we've got the beauty, which was like, okay, if you have a high value product and you want to share that with a client remotely, that would work well. So we focused on making that really easily manipulable. Performance, and again, this was about showing, okay, well, say you're engineering and you have a holographic version of your vehicle, and you have holographic dials which are able to give you performance readouts from that vehicle, or yeah. And engineering, and this was actually talking about repairs, that kind of idea that I think we're all very used to seeing on promotional material from the HoloLens, where you're able to fix things and pull them apart and whatnot. And I wanted to kind of weave this together through a story as well. And while we're doing that, to make it intuitive and seamless, we thought, okay, cool, we'll increase the interaction complexity level as we're going through from the intro animation all the way to the engineering section. So these were the initial kind of mock-ups I did, and to kind of get across the point of what I was talking about, these kind of 4 key sections. And then we went through the traditional process. We really go in and storyboard this in a traditional fashion, right from the user picking it up, the intro sequences, and we go through step by step, looking at the interactions based on at each stage. I wanted to highlight this one because this was an interaction we actually had on a project we did with a major sports apparel company for the HoloLens, and you had a wall of trainers, and you could go like that, and the trainers would come to you, and it was like a really delightful, magical interaction that everyone smiled when they did it. It was like it had Jedi powers or something. It didn't make the cut in this because it was kind of shoehorned in, and we just felt going back to something more simple like picking the vehicle up worked a lot better. And again, you know, we kind of storyboarded, you know, all of these sections in depth. And, you know, just to give you a bit of a sneaky peek, like this was my storyboard initially. And you know, this was the ones we ended with to work with the design with the developers. But you know, just being able to clearly communicate with the storyboard artists and then to the developers means that we're able to get from that to something where once we start working with the GUI artist, this is and visualizer, this is what we're talking about. This is the level that we aspire to. So from there, I mean, that's pretty much the creative process, really. And from there, we went on to development, script writing, and whatnot. But I'd like to then move on to the idea of, you know, giving you guys some hints and tips, things we really learned developing this project. So hint and tip number one, capture their imagination. Like, as I said, like at first, when people first pick up the HoloLens, you know, I feel like you should really try to earn their engagement from the very beginning. And I guess this is true of any immersive experience. We have to try and earn their engagement. It's no different here. You know, we really thought, okay, how can we capture their imagination? So I'm just going to play this video. Oh, here we go. So essentially what's happening here is that this is what happens as soon as you pick it up. You know, we welcome you. There's already music. Oh, there's already music playing. Oh, I seem to have a bit of lag here. Yeah. You know, you start the experience. You go and set up your anchor. And we want to make this all really seamless. Like the idea is as well, you know, at this point, once you hit go, we have spatial sound moving around the space. So you hear a car roaring from left to right. And as the logos recede into the background, we end up hearing the car coming past us as well. So we're using the sounds, the spatial sound in HoloLens to direct our attention to where the focus of the experience is going to be. And you'll see here we came with some really nice shaders again, and this is just loading the experience. You know, it's just not like a loading ring, wait for people, and people straight away want to investigate that and have a look at what we've created. So doing it that way, we really feel that we've earned their engagement. And I think Nacho wants to talk a bit about the spatial sound and the spatial anchors at this point.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Yeah, two key points in the presentation was to make the audio 3D. We have a very clear mind to have a audio that was moving around the camera. In order to do that, well, the HoloLens was building a 3D audio nice system where you simply put an audio cue and move around the camera, you will hear exactly how the audio feels up, down, and surround of you. So it was fairly straightforward to implement the audio 3D. So we have a very nice system for that. Talking about the audio, it's important to mention that there is a plugin that we have to add. It's made by Microsoft. It's good to have because it will increase the performance and the quality of the spatial audio in Unreal Engine. So it was very nice to have that. And for the anchor themes was another important feature that we really have used for it. It's like, well, every time you start the experience, you can have the same spot where you put the last time the experience. So you configure the starting point in front of you, and it doesn't matter if you start the app far away, it will start exactly the same real point as the HoloLens will scan the scenario where you are, and that's it. In that point, the experience will always start at this point. So it's very useful to have several themes scatter surround your desktop and always start at the same time. It doesn't matter when you start the experience, or if you are looking any place. It was very useful and very nice to have that feature.
Okay, great. And that brings us on to another key point, really. Assume that people know nothing. Like, you know, as I said, we really storyboarded this from the moment people picked the headset up. Just because, you know, again, we really want to earn their engagement and make it very easy for them to connect with the experience. I think we've all been in experiences on any kind of technology, whether that's the phone, whether that's a console, HoloLens VR, where, you know, we can lose interest very early because we feel a bit out of our field, we feel a bit out of depth. And so, you know, with a new technology like this, which is really intuitive, it should be really intuitive. We spent a lot of time actually just designing literally how this will work, how these spatial anchors would work. And you could see on one of the previous examples, the videos that you know, we have a blue hand come up when you hover your hand over interactive objects. And we found in previous projects that things like that really help. You know, people aren't necessarily used to dealing with depth in mixed reality because essentially, you know, your hand can go through things. So having something like a ghost-like hand matching your own hand really helps to tell people that they're in an interactive zone or that an object is interactive, and makes it really easy for them to highlight it and interact. And that comes on to our next point. Help them help themselves. Like, don't make it hard. Make it really easy for them. Make it as easy as possible. You know, as I said previously, we've done a few projects with Microsoft, with the HoloLens 2, with a lot of support from Microsoft. And you know, during this project, the MRTK wasn't available for Unreal. And we'd done a couple of previous projects where we were working with Unreal as well, and MRTK wasn't there. So we spent a lot of time really digging in depth to how the Microsoft buttons worked, you know, how they react to your hand, what's the best positional placement? Is it local to objects? Is it world local? And one thing that we kind of really found quite useful for this part of the project is that, well, when you drop the car, the menu actually stays local. It just makes it very easy for people to know how to interact and to really want to engage. Oh, and you can see that blue hand thing. I'm just going to play that again so you can see it one more time. You can see the blue hand coming up as I begin to interact, as I was speaking about earlier, the blue holographic hand there, yeah. So yeah, just making it really easy for people to be able to interact. And Nacho, do you want to talk about how we achieve the kind of grab functionality, and about, you know, how we tested the buttons and whatnot?
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Yeah, two keys elements for the entire experience was to have buttons that is they are going to communicate with the user and to grab things, any object that can be grabbed and manipulate directly. So the thing that we discussed as well, we need a button with 4 important characteristics. One thing was able to detect when the user is near to press the button and indicate the surface when the button will be pressed. That was provided by the empty key, so we could see. We could already have a shader that highlights when the finger is very close to the button, so it will highlight. I think I can see. We can see in the video. Also, another important thing is to have the button to change into a ready state to be pressed. For that, we implemented an animation in order to improve the performance, because that's something very important during the entire process of the experience. We have a skeletal mesh with the buttons to make animated, so it will bring an animation. Another important step was just when the button was pressed, the button will change, and when the button finally is released, it will bring back to the ready state. So those 4 stages needed for the buttons were mostly implemented already in Microsoft Toolkit. So we only have to manipulate a little bit and add, for example, just the skeletal animation in order to match or the size. But mostly of things was ready for this for the version we were using. And for grabbing the items, in this case, the car and the special anchor point, it was using the same thing. In the FTK, we have already a grab system, so you can easily add a grab point into any object, and that object will react with the hand and be able to grab, pick up, rotate. It's not used in that case, but we can scale, do any manipulation we want with two hands, with one hand. So it was not very straightforward just to add it. Tweaks were done, customizing exactly where the interaction must be, how far the interaction can be, and adding things like, for example, the glowing effect for the hand when we are close, so the user can communicate easily and know, all right, now I can grab the car, because people the first time is like, can I pick the car? It's like, yeah, it feels like they saw the 3D hand was basically always hidden and then make visible a little bit when it's close. And then, oh yeah, it makes sense for them. I can pick the car. So yeah, it was very nice feature to have.
Okay, cool. Oh, give me a second here. What's going on? All right, cool. And so this is something which I really believe in, like generally in immersive tech, the idea of, well, generally in technology and interaction, it's the idea of little actions equal high rewards. You know, you want people to feel as though they don't have to do much to get much of a response from your experience. So this is part of the engineering section of the experience, where you can change the wheel of the, you can change parts of the wheel of the vehicle, of the brake mechanism, and it's a bit of a game. You have to try and do it in under 60 seconds because it was one of the key innovations of the Ford GT40 Mark II. The fact that they could change the brakes. It's a 24-hour race, Le Mans 24, so they have to change the brakes a lot. So they took it down from 60 minutes, changing the brakes, to 60 seconds by using a particular mechanism. And here you replicate that. We don't show this in this whole video, but you actually take bits out of the vehicle and replace them against the clock. But what we really liked was this mechanism of being able to pinch, rotate, and pull out to expand the wheel. And yeah, that was I think everyone finds that quite surprising. And graphically, it was one of the nicest parts of the experience as well. So Nacho, I think you wanted to talk about there was a custom gesture that we needed to implement here.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly. In order to make this part of the experience was the most complex, in the sense you had so many things to manipulate, to pick up and grab and drop. Well, the thing is, the basic stuff was already mostly implemented, but then we have the custom gestures to rotate the wrist in order to trigger when several stages where you can expand, and then there are some boundaries of the movement of the object. We need to limit the distance where too far we can go with the wheel, because if not, it could be very messy. And yeah, it was very useful to have access. This is basically having access to the bones of the hand, the virtual hand. Always we can have any position for the entire hand, and just making calculation about how it's rotating between reference bones, and if it detects the rotation of the bones, it will trigger an action. In that case, just to rotate the wrist, rotating with the hand, the palm and the wrist. If they turn, then it will trigger clockwise or anti-clockwise. The same way we implemented discard the summon feature, so we can make a summon animation and we can call Lambert. So that's a good thing. We can have several actions, the basic actions that pick, grab things, but the nice feature is knowing the position of the bones, and every moment calculate the reference from the previous position. We could make our custom gesture quite easily.
Cool, great, thank you, Nacho. And so, when I was putting that slide together, it kind of made me think of one other point. And I know everyone kind of frowns upon this, the idea of breaking the field of view, saying you'll drop immersion. But really, in that last example, we did, and I'll show you a little GIF here of me doing it myself. And you can see the blue arrow here towards the bottom of the screen. You can really begin to use a graphic or screen furniture or sound, for example, to begin to break that field of view and direct people's attention. I don't think it's about it's really breaking the level of immersion if it's done in a correct fashion. And I think that sometimes there isn't too much of another design decision that you can make to effectively do this and signpost what you want the user to do. So that's just a bit of a side note there. Right, seamless transitions. Right, so yes, again, we wanted to create something which again was really aesthetically very high level and worked narratively as a story from start to finish. I feel like that's a really good way to further immerse people and further engage people and make them feel part of that story and as though they're doing something worthwhile. So part of this is the idea of seamless transitions. I feel like we all, we're all very familiar with lots of different experiences. And if you just cut that experience, you cut the sound, you cut the visual, then you kind of take people out of believing that there's something there. So we developed this really nice shader to be able to transition between those key scenes where the vehicle will go transparent and then you'd see the aerodynamic lines form and dissipate. So while that was happening as well, we'd keep the music playing from scene to scene too. So, I mean, as a creative, I just said, yeah, let's do that. And then Nacho really had to deal with the complexities behind it. So Nacho, I'll let you explain a little more about how that came in handy at other stages as well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, one important thing was to make the transition between not only between different levels, one change from engineering to performance, but also in the current scenario we are looking at the performance level. We have several scenarios and we swap between different levels, but with no loading time, and wanted to make it smooth. And in order to do that, we have with Brett, what was our technical artist, developed several materials that quite easily add several transition between them. So at the end, instead of making the car using transparent and disappear, basically what was a nice trick is just to make the car going down without rendering. So it makes the car disappear, to vanish, but really there is no transparency, there is no, that can hurt the performance. Another important thing to avoid, to increase the smooth transition, was to use the streaming levels. Instead of having every level totally independent, we have all the levels in a stream level. It was stored in memory using the load streaming from Unreal, and we could load them as needed. Meanwhile, we have others in the main level. The audio was playing. There was a manager playing the audio, playing the sound cue if needed as the narrative goes on. So we never have a loss of loading time between several levels, because every level has its own art. Every level has its own car with its own characteristics. Some levels the car was totally rigged. In other, it was just the mesh. So to again, just to improve the performance. So yeah, that helped a lot to use the streaming level and thinking about how the shaders will be in order to make nice transition between them.
Okay, yeah, cool. And just to kind of clarify on this particular environment, you can essentially have a car on a rolling road, and you can go in and you can change the environment. You can change it from day to night. You can change the weather. You can change the speed of the vehicle. So that's why the GUI is so large. But as Nacho was saying, it meant that we had to go through a lot of different changes in environments and shaders on the fly, and with no loading time. Okay, optimize and use custom shaders. Again, you know, as a creative, well, I used to be a 3D artist, so I kind of know the pains of creating things and optimization. But we really pushed to create custom shaders and optimize and create custom shaders to get the best possible. You know, and really we ended up with a model such as this, which was about under 85,000 polygons, and within this we had the engine, we had the interior. You know, as you can see, we've got some nice shaders on the surface, and we were able to actually want to talk a bit about just a touch about the shaders, you know, because this is it obviously running in real time as well in Unreal. So Nacho, did you want to have something to say about shaders here?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, in that particular scene, we are showing the three cars with several colors, etc. What we did in that case is one important thing is to keep the frame rate as high as possible. And in order to do that, we have to choose different models of the car with different level of details and different shaders with more complexity, as we wanted to know how far we can go. So in order to make sure that we have the best result, we have a level with all the cars with the different shaders applied with the different LOD, and just using the HoloLens and the holographic remoting, we were able to connect directly and see what's the performance we are having. The device portal. With the device portal of the HoloLens, we can manipulate and calculate how far we can go, how the frame rate, if we can maintain the 60 frames per second. And with that help, we can tweak, well, this shader seems to be complicated, and obviously we have to all the real-time lighting and reflections. We have to add them embedded into the proper material and make that moving with some parameters that we can change depending on the speed. So we can have the car that's really moving around, but the car was static, obviously, and only animated by tricks of the shader.
And literally, one of the last points is actually aim high. Like, you know, obviously, we realize we're working in device, and we realize we want to keep that frame rate really high. But at the same time, this is, you know, how we started our designs. You know, this really great device, and don't, you know what the limitations are, but don't go out there. Don't start out thinking that you're only going to be able to create something which is functional. You know, we can create something which is functional, which is aesthetically pleasing, and will also perform at a high level. And the final point I want to make is remote review. Yeah, so there should be a video here. Here we go. Yeah, remote reviews were amazing with HoloLens. We do it like this essentially. So we'd go to the HoloLens portal on your computer, then we'd log on to like a screening, like any of the web meeting services, Teams, Google Meet, for example, and we could stream directly from the device to that meeting, and that meant that we could review in a way where we're not having to send back. I'll just pop through to some of the experience, but we're not having to take screen grabs, work in engine, all remotely collaborate in different ways, mark up documents. We could literally, I could literally stand there, go through the experience, talk about the individual points of the experience, everything from button sizes to button positioning, and do the reviews in a spatial way, in an intuitive way, which would be similar to how someone would be using the experience themselves. Okay, so I'm going to cut it there. I feel like we've probably gone a little long on our presentation, but yeah, hopefully there were some really good insights in there for you guys.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to hand this over to Summer for asking some questions.
Yeah, thanks so much, Alex and Nick. Wow, first off, I just want to say congrats, Alex and Nacho. Just incredible project, incredible presentation.